Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Fowler with the Apartment Owners Association, and it is great to have you with us today. We're going to be talking about best practices for boosting your resident satisfaction, creating community, and helping the good ones stay longer. And so this hopefully, whenever you have a vacancy, you're losing money, right? So we're going to try to keep those renters satisfied, have a good relationship, no headaches. Does that sound good to you? Okay, well then let's get started. AOA, we are really dedicated to your real estate success. We're going to bring people on that are experts in their field, and today is definitely no exception. And before we get started, I want to highlight the AOA Live Investigator search that we have. And many of you are aware that the instant criminal searches really only search the criminal database. They do not search the civil. And so this is really a problem because domestic violence is a problem, fraud's a problem, stalking and these other things. You want to know those things before you allow someone, especially into a multifamily building. And the live investigator search that AOA has provides all that information. We start it with a skip trace. So we're gonna know immediately if they're using someone else's social, and then we're gonna get an address list for you to work off of. While the private investigator, so literally we're hiring a private investigator to look this stuff up, and they are physically handling the county court records for every county listed in that previous address history that we search for you. So it's like a single county criminal search, but for as many counties that they've been a part of. And then it's looking at the civil. So that will show the evictions. It will show, like I said, the civil misconduct, like the domestic violence and everything. It's looking at the state level, and it's looking in a lot of different places that you just won't get from a instant criminal report. If you were to go hire a private investigator, they're probably going to charge you $100, $150. This is $28 for that. And I'll tell you, like we use it for employment as well. I think you're insane to not use it. That's my opinion, and we all have our opinion, but you are absolutely insane to not use it. And we just, yeah, it's all about people, right? So we just want to get the right people in. And content wise, I don't know if you missed it, but we had a JCO registration requirement uh, live stream. We did a security deposit crash course. We covered maximum allowable rent increases. We did a move in, move out crash course, a tenant screening crash course. So we've covered a lot of different things on YouTube. I know some of you, you're new to AOA, you're watching for the first time, and you're watching from AOAUSA.com. I want to welcome you. If you go to on the AOAUSA.com website, there's a button to take you to our YouTube channel. So after you watch this, you could catch everything. You could rewatch it, or you could catch up on some of those things that you may have missed. And there is also a maximizing your membership um, live stream that we've done. And so you can watch a recorded version of that at your convenience and just kind of understand, excuse me, everything that AOA offers and how you can just utilize those different services and tools um, while you're a member. And anyway, so we do have at noon, we're going to be having tax strategies that every real estate investor should know. So that's at 12. That's with Carla Dennis, who is a enrolled agent, which is a lot of you know already, but that's higher than just a CPA. And anyway, so she's going to be talking and help you learn how to really get a lot out of, yeah, just the tax code, get a lot out of it. And additionally, she's going to be speaking at the trade show. And then we're going to have California next week. We're going to have California law update and also covering insurance cancellations, non-renewals, and inspections. There's just a whole lot going on in all of that. And so we're going to have a couple people on to talk through that. And then in person, we have the free AOA $1 Million Trade Show that's coming up, Long Beach Convention Center. We have a speaker that's going to be who knows his stuff. Again, we bring experts on midterm rentals. Mr. Landlord will be there. Carla Dennis will be there. So many others. And yeah, so I think there's about 20 different seminars. We have over 150 vendors that are going to be there. And, you know, it's just a tremendous time. You want to carve time out to do that for sure. If you don't make it, we're probably going to record that. We do have a recording of 8 of the seminars from the last trade show that we did. And that sells for $299, and you can go to the orders form page on the website and purchase it for 299 bucks, or you can go in person. And so kind of choice is up to you. But the topics, even if the speakers are the same, topics are changing and things change. You know, what last time when we did that in March, things were different than they are today. And so if you want the latest and greatest, hopefully you'll be able to make it August 20th. And anyway, and then also, like if you're watching from AOAUSA.com, on the bottom right, there's that little blue bubble, and you'll be able to get questions in there, and then our team will filter that over to us. And anyway, so finally we can get into it here. Our speaker today, from small apartments to large multifamily portfolios, he works hands-on with owners and investors to reduce vacancies, maximize returns and improve property operations. You know, he's doing this on a large scale, so he's got great systems in place, and so it's really going to be great. I'm really excited for you to hear from him, what he's going to share. He's got a background in economics from USC and, you know, deep roots in real estate, and he brings the insight of a second generation property owner and broker. So everyone, I just want to introduce you to Paul Tennen, and Paul, it's so good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I can't see what is that behind you?
Oh, that's our Zoom background logo there.
Yeah, so there's Linder Property Management. You're with
Yeah,
Linder. And there it is. Guys can kind of see it now. But anyway, take it away for us, man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Certainly happy to be here, happy to help. Um, today I was tasked with a topic that I found to be very important. Some might say, well, why is it important? Why is that something that I want to know about as far as a property owner? We do all these things to make tenants happy. What more can I do? And as I've thought about it more in terms of the value of today's session, I wanted to highlight how keeping tenants happy isn't necessarily just about retention and keeping them in the building per se. It's also about ways that it will make your life easier as a property manager, or in my case, both an owner and a manager. So today's approach is more about ways to be effective in doing that, and really, creating positive relationships with your tenants. And it really it has a direct correlation to making your life easier in terms of, having good conversations with your tenants, them not screaming and getting angry as much, to maybe them respecting the building more and so forth. So I have a couple of ideas that I'm going to share with you today that I hopefully find will be effective. And, first and foremost, everybody talks about timely, responsive, and effective maintenance. So, that's really where the ball starts. When folks are calling you or calling us as a property management company, they're looking to solve their problem. And, so treating their problem as a priority and effectively trying to deliver the results as quickly as possible is certainly something that's important to us. We value quick and speedy maintenance. And I think that's definitely something that in a very litigious world that we're living in today ends up being a more effective way to combat that. And so certainly number one would be the timely, responsive, and effective maintenance, and showing people that you can deliver good maintenance on time and quality as well. Another one that comes to mind is a live person answering the phone. So, in today's robotic world, having a voicemail really bothers people. And so if there's a way that you can have somebody actually answer the phone when people ring, you find that you are showing people that, there's a sense of urgency and importance. And also in very urgent situations like leaks and floods, you can actually get to the root of the problem quickly, because as we all know, leaks turn into nightmares. And so the quicker you can attend to those calls, the better. The quicker that a person can call and get someone on the phone, it de-escalates their frustration levels, both with you as a management company and you as an owner. So we encourage that. Third, I think, would be a thorough, kind, and clear notice communication. So, sometimes when you're drafting your notices for inspections, for maintenance, for, noise violations, any of the above, we recommend trying to write language in there that's relatable to the person. So, when a person gets one of your notices, it's not some, template that's used. It's, if maybe it's related to a domestic situation, or maybe it's a noise complaint, or maybe it's even just, we're going to be doing work here at the property. So having information in that notice that's clear and directive, maybe even a follow-up notice, you want to speak to people the way that you'd like to be spoken to. And so part of that is just letting them know, hey, we're going to be back tomorrow, or the gas line is blown. It's going to take several days to fix. Here's the schedule of that work. We're going to continue to communicate with you about that. So that we find is a very valuable commodity, because it not only creates relationship with your tenants, but it avoids all those follow-up phone calls. You could get plagued with people going, what's going on here? And so just having that nice, kind, and clear notice communication, I think, is really important. Number 4 on the list would be building cleanliness and security. So I think it's pretty self-evident, but well-lit entries and secured entrances will provide residents with the feeling that the place is well taken care of and secure. Certainly in some of the buildings we deal with homeless situations and things of that nature, packages being stolen, giving the impression that you care about the security of the building and the safety of the residents is important. And when you write that little tagline, safety is the highest priority for us, etc., these are ways that you can show that. Regularly cleaning the common areas and hallways will directly lead to tenants wanting to do the same. And so making sure that you kind of go back around and have a routine cleaning maintenance program and attentiveness to the building, I think is something that will bring smiles to people's faces. Number 5 would be responsive property manager or owner. So, when folks leave messages, when they send emails, being responsive in return to their requests, trying to get back to them in a timely manner. Doesn't mean it's same day, etc. But being responsive to their needs, I think, is something that goes a long way. We have found, and as many of you on here may know, that people just want to be heard. And they just kind of want someone to sympathize with their problem. And so we have found that, getting back to people in a timely manner, following up with emails in a timely manner are all very important ways that you can build relationships with tenants. And again, it's all about getting their level of anger, frustration, concern, whatever that might be, bringing that down a little bit. And to me, that's an important goal of ours. Number 6 on my list is availability to console and support during emergencies. So a lot of folks have emergencies on nights and weekends. Their entire unit. We recently had a unit in a building of ours that had a backup, and the backup flooded the unit. The lady was out of town. She came back in for the following day and found her unit flooded. And obviously that's devastating. It's devastating for everybody involved. And it encourages a tremendous amount of work on our part to be done. So we want to make sure that she understands when we take that stuff seriously. And, having someone available at night or on the weekend or the following day when it comes to an emergency to communicate with that person and let them know we care really does a lot when it comes to, the follow-up, lawsuit or, claims and so forth, even insurance stuff. Being available to console those people and work through them shows them that, you're on their team with them. And that's really important. Number 7 would be handle tenant disputes and noise complaints fairly. I think just being a balanced mediator when it comes to tenant relations and tenant issues is really important. I think that clear and consistent enforcement of building policies makes people respect the building. I think if you respect the building and you show them that you respect the tenants, they will respect the building. They won't trash the place and leave, bags of trash throughout the building, kick doors down, etc. We've had all of that. But I think if they see that somebody's present, somebody's aware, somebody is, in control over that building, that they will think twice. And if you can build that kind of rapport with your tenants and you can build that kind of relationship with your tenants that they feel that way, I do believe that the number of those circumstances where there's disrespect to the property will diminish. Number 8 on my list is gather and act on tenant feedback. So one of the things that's really important for me is listening to feedback, criticism, and compliment. We like to be We like to be open to people telling us what's wrong with what we're doing or what's happening at the building, because I think that creates an opportunity for people to express themselves, and some of that may be very vital. You may not know that something really bad is happening at your building, and often maybe there's a bad tenant doing bad things. Maybe someone's just taking advantage. Maybe somebody's harassing the whole building, and you wouldn't even know. So showing tenants that you're open to both criticism and compliment really continues to develop your relationship with the tenants and encourages them to be open with you and on the same team. And I always say this, as long as it's productive. So if the criticism is productive and delivered in a way that's productive for us to be able to do something about it, we really encourage that. If it's just a bunch of screaming and you should do better and so forth, obviously that doesn't get us very far. But it allows people to know that we're open to hearing what's good and what's bad about the property so that we can do something about it, because we can't fix what we don't know. So number 9 on my list is maintain a friendly and approachable attitude. Probably similar to the prior one as well. But I think it really resonates that when a manager or an owner is open to communication from tenants and has a positive outlook on the property and a positive attitude towards making that property great, people feel that. People know that. And I guarantee you, as Jeff mentioned earlier, in terms of retention, if people feel the sense that you're willing to commit to them and to the property as much as you are, they will stay. They will continue to pay a high rent. They may even tell their friends, you know what? This place doesn't have all the amenities that another place might, but this place is really great because the owner's really great or the manager is really great, and we really appreciate that. So that's definitely something that we encourage and try to uphold as often as we can. And I think that lends itself to number 10, which is create a sense of community. If a tenant feels like they're a part of something, they're not going to disrespect the property. If they feel that they're being well treated or well responded to, and they trust that you're going to take care of a maintenance issue because you said you would, and you create an environment where people are positive around each other, neighbors are talking to each other, they feel they're not at it, against each other, but they're actually supported by a manager or an owner. You are able to resolve disputes among tenants quickly and efficiently. You're able to have a resident manager who communicates well with residents and lets them know that they're available. We stress that a lot. Then a tenant's going to say, you know what, I really like this building. I'm not going to damage it. I'm not going to sue the owner. I'm not going to do these kinds of things because they really do care and they're trying. And that's not a foolproof system, but in today's day and age where times have changed, property management has changed, I think that these practices are what saves you a little bit each time with these residents and creates longer standing relationships with people that will prevent, litigation or these other, lawsuits or insurance claims or, all the stuff that comes about when there's negativity, right? So what we try to do in our buildings is create that sense of community. And that takes everybody's effort. A resident manager, going back to that, has to be outspoken with the tenants about work going on in the building. When there's an emergency and the water has to be shut off quickly, the resident manager lets those people know quickly. They keep them informed. And so it's not just this big question mark in the sky always of like, what's going on here and how come no one told me? And so setting those systems up, whether it's the notice communication like I mentioned mixed with resident communication and so forth, those elements combined really make life easier for any property manager or owner out there who's wondering to themselves, gosh, I'm getting this lawsuit, I'm getting that complaint and this complaint. what can I do differently that will allow me to live an easier life and run this building with enjoyment. And I think that these 10 and more examples are ways to go about doing that.
Great. That is great stuff. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing that stuff. And yeah, I just kind of want to, just following up on what you shared there, like for that, for just having the clear communication, are you texting? Are you calling? Are you emailing? Like, what's your standard form of communication to, is it through your tenant portal, or how are you
Sure.
doing that?
So I try to avoid texting as much as possible.
Okay.
We only try to text when it's necessary, emergency, you know, and last but not least, but what we like to do is formal notices. We like to make sure that the we do, yeah, and we also send these emails and notices. A lot of email correspondences, everything's tracked. So I would say those are our primary. We also send through the portal, but our main objectives are email and notice communication.
Okay. And when you're doing those notices, like you said, like avoid templates, kind of cater it, like tailor it to the person and how they can understand it. Are you using AI to help at least with grammar, or like what kind of editing process do you have? Like maybe not every one of your on-site managers is, got a perfect score on the SAT and is an English teacher on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've certainly leaned on AI to help us with putting, thoughts into phrases and words, where I would sit, for 30 minutes to an hour or more crafting this most well-rounded, well-versed letter for one small noise complaint issue or a tenant matter, etc. Yeah, we use some of the AI functions to kind of just get the words out. We still have to populate it with the issues going on in that specific circumstance, but being able to lean on some of that for ways to say things. Some things you may want to say it in a certain way, and maybe that sounds like a little harsh. So you might use AI, to help you tailor that in a way that's more business-like or professionally sounding. So we encourage that.
Great.
Got to
That's
use
great.
the tools of the day,
Right.
as often as we can.
Right. And everyone remember, like ChatGPT, some of these other ones, they're free. They're free for the most part, unless you're using it so much where, it prompts you to pay. But
Yeah,
that's,
if I can jump in on that.
yeah.
So, if you're, let's say, in terms of your notice communication, you could make yourself sound so much more like business-like and professional when you are communicating some of these things. If you're a small mom and pop owner and you don't have time to craft a wordy, written a notice that outlines, let's say, for example, a noise complaint, or when you start to file a nuisance complaint for an eviction, you have to create this long email or long letter that outlines all of the issues that happen. And so sitting there doing that could take you hours. And so there's nothing wrong with leaning on some of the ChatGPT functions and so forth to help to make it sound crafted professionally.
Right. Right. Definitely. Here's another free one, Attitude.
Yes.
So you mentioned Attitude, and I know everyone, we love free, and Attitude really is, it's a free one, and it's not anything that requires more education necessarily. It's just choosing to focus on the positive and
That's
everything.
right.
So I think those are
I think
great because they're free. It's a freebie.
it is, and it really does go a long way. It's incredibly hard sometimes because you get frustrated with, the various things that happen as an owner or a property manager. But it does have a direct correlation to lowering the volume of the frustration and potentially avoiding further both litigation and conflict by the old kill them with kindness. That is something that's very helpful today, and I think property owners struggle with that because they go, gosh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and how could I be any nicer or easier? But being sympathetic to people's situations and issues and challenges and so forth, letting them know that you're human too. These things go a long way.
That's great stuff. And then you talked about security, like making sure the locks are operational and everything. I remember a couple of years back we had a guy who was literally a shot caller, spent a lot of time in jail, and was running a gang, and I can't remember what part of LA, but anyway, he came out. He ended up having a radical life change and ended up being a property manager. And when he took over, he talked about that very thing, like the back gates really need to be operational because they're flying through the back gate. And if it's locked, then they're less likely to do stuff. And he talked about, you mentioned the cleaning. He also talked about, plant flowers, well lit, security cameras. And it was interesting. He had a really interesting perspective, but a lot of, what you shared there is interesting. For what kind of system do you have in place for people to share security concerns? This is something that I've kind of been looking into and kind of
Yeah.
researching right now. So I'm curious what you guys do with that.
Yeah. So, like I said, that we have the first line of communication is a phone call. So when someone calls our office, a live person answers the phone, and it initially takes the brunt of that, whatever it is, frustration, anger, concern, and points them in the right direction. So there's a process in our office. There's flow, and it goes to the right person, and that's kind of important. As far as urgency goes, that's also really important because, if a person gets frustrated by, having to press one and no one answers the phone and it goes nowhere, you may not know there's a problem for another hour or so. So we think that that's a big one. So the phone call is important. You could also email us. You could go through the website. There's a way to submit a form, through the website, which hits a lot of our phones. On nights and weekends we have a third-party call service. It's a 24-hour live person will answer the phone. If it's 10:30 at night on a Friday night and there's a flood, or the lights went out on a retail strip center that we have, and we had to get DWP out there right away, and it helps us sleep better at night when we know that somebody's attending to those things, and they'll dispatch one of our 24-hour call center vendors that will take that call, and they'll go out and try to, stop the leak or deal with that issue. And so people know that they can get a hold of somebody at our company.
That's great. That's great. So anyway, definitely, guys, put your questions in here in the chat if you're watching on YouTube, and put it in if you're on the website, you can put it in there. On Sherry here, she said, can you discuss retaliatory evictions? Now, we know that you are not an attorney. This is not legal advice, but this is something that you deal with. And so just as a property manager, if you could kind of share, a little bit.
Retaliatory evictions?
Yeah.
I assume that means, them fighting an eviction because they think you're pursuing them per se. I'm not. really
Yeah, so
sure.
maybe they were at, I don't know why it's retaliatory. Maybe Sherry, you could give a little more background, but let's say that they had, were asking for some kind of modification to their apartment or
Okay.
did some, let's just say something like that. And yeah, so like, or let's frame it this way. How do you avoid retaliatory evictions?
Okay. So, when folks ask for things that, we just can't deliver on, there is the philosophy of being able to say it in a way that's still respectful and productive.
Mhm.
So, we do get asked from time to time for tenants to do certain things, both in their units and in the common areas. We've been asked to, if they could tend to gardens and if they can edit their units in certain ways or add ACs or whatnot. And we also believe in just communicating with people in a friendly and reasonable way. Even if the answer is no, we can at least attempt to try to solve their issue.
Mhm.
In terms of going out and evicting them because of that, I don't really see that really happening much anymore. The world of eviction is very complicated right now, and unless it's for non-payment of rent or a very specific outlined nuisance, which these nuisance cases have gotten to be very difficult to prove and to fight. But if you have the evidence and you have the the outline, the notices that you've given to tenants and all of the above, there are ways to pursue tenants legally for nuisance. So that's hopefully that answers that question for her.
Okay, yeah. So in response, Sherry put in here, in response to demanding other residents cease smoking in another unit.
Yeah, so that would technically fall under nuisance. So, you would communicate your building policies in place. You would enforce that for all tenants. You would continue to practice the behavior of non-smoking or whatever that rule is that you're trying to enforce. It's really important that it is a fair practice. So it's not a letter going to just that tenant saying you can't smoke, it's to all tenants. And if that one tenant continues to violate that rule, well, then it has to be outlined that on these dates, we made it very clear the policy of the building. You continued to violate that policy. We have evidence, whether it's photographic or witness testimony evidence that you violated that rule or law. And we've asked you on these multiple occasions to stop that behavior, and you continue to practice that behavior. So in that sense, yes, there are some ways that you could go about it, but really making sure that that policy that you're enforcing is building wide, and that the notices that you're communicating to, that even if it's just one tenant doing it, all tenants need to be made aware that that building policy is in effect, and we encourage that behavior from all tenants.
Mhm. Yeah, I think consistency is such a key, consistently enforcing. And I think people, they're afraid to enforce sometimes. And you need to remember that you are the owner and you really can create a safer, better environment by just being fair and even with enforcement. So that's great. Um,
Absolutely.
um, on August 20th, do you have any special plan on that day? Are you going to be anywhere specifically?
What's happening that day?
That's the AOA $1 million trade show day.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We'll be in Long Beach.
Okay, so you're going to be there. You don't know your booth number, do you?
No.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't either. But he'll be there, and you're usually like that center aisle, if I remember right. You're usually on the center aisle. So if you walk
Well,
straight,
I think it's really helpful, even for property managers like myself, we go and we get information and numbers of people. We continue to find new vendors that are looking for, doing good work and making money. and helping us satisfy a lot of the work that we get asked to do. And so those seminars that you put on are absolute gold, because they're just all this free information that helps guide people. And then as far as the contacts that get made there, we leave with a bag full of new phone numbers of various people we didn't even know exist, and all of a sudden we're using them nonstop. I mean, a big one right now is the seismic retrofitting, and having these balconies. And just a note on that is really finding somebody that you can work with and trust is so helpful. And doing that at the seminars and the conventions that you put on, you get a chance to speak to them directly, and you see their staff, you see who they are. It helps so much when you're really searching for someone to work with like that, and that could be worth a lot of money.
Yeah. So normally we don't drop names and refer other companies, but who are you using? Just curious.
Yeah. So I know one of the folks that we actually work with a consultant who helps us get 3 different bids from multiple companies. And that's actually been a nice way of doing it, because he'll vet those companies and he'll help kind of go through the motions with them, and really find the one that fits perfectly for your property. Because some folks come and they're used to bigger properties with 50 to 100 balconies. The price schedule is just not going to be the same. I'll send you the information of that person. I don't remember his company name offhand, but but he's been very helpful for us.
Great. All right, here we go. How do you handle tenants who keep asking for unreasonable accommodations? So yeah, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so I think we fall back to the laws of rent control and city codes. And so the best way to approach those kinds of things are, first, are you required to do so? Right? So if a person says, I want to install an AC, or if they want to replace carpeting, or if they want to, do something cosmetic to the apartment that you don't feel like is necessary or reasonable, you could go to LA Rent Control, you can call AOA and get free advice. You can call these different sources, and they'll give you information on ways that you can say yes or no to something, if it's a real rule requirement or not. So that's step one, is identifying it by law. Is that something I'm required to do? If it's not required, then it becomes, is it an accommodation for handicap ADA, right? So we've had tenants ask us for, handlebars and things like that. I would encourage you to do it, because that does get out of hand and could potentially become an issue down the line. And so if there is some formal request by a doctor or related to ADA compliance in a unit for, things, you do not need to do construction and remodel something in order to accommodate that. So for example, if they ask for a ramp and you're unable to provide the ramp, then you're not required to do that. But when it comes to other accommodations for handlebars and things that can be done, I do encourage that. The last part would be for, what value is that going to bring to you in your relationship with the tenant, right? And maybe saying yes sometimes may go a long way in the long run, so then it becomes sort of a business decision, and accommodating certain people in there. If it's not something that's really going to, hurt too much, if it's going to make someone happy in a situation that, we've had folks say, hey, can I pay half for the flooring and get a new floor? We'd be open-minded to something like that. That's a win for the client and for the tenant. And painting of units, things like that. Sometimes that does go a long way. So it definitely depends on, another example would just be what you said about tenant retention. If a tenant feels like, they're paying a high rate of rent and you don't want to lose them, yeah, you may make some accommodations and say yes to certain things. But I want to leave folks today with the impression that you are in charge of this building.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be afraid to govern this property the way you see fit. And I think the media and these other channels kind of make us feel like we're the bad guys. And we're not the bad guys. People often think that, but we're just not. We're folks that are housing you, giving people a place to live, and then tending to that place. And I think that's something that tenants need to understand, and everyone involved. So I don't feel like you should be afraid to make the right decision that that is in your best interest for your property.
Great. And tell me, what's your smoking policy?
We try to keep a no smoking policy. We think that globally, everybody should feel comfortable in their home. If you feel like you want to smoke, then go off property, or to an open air area. But we just try to discourage that because folks have illnesses, folks have allergies, and folks have children. And
Yeah.
so, we try to accommodate those even that smoke, but I think the best way to do that is by just telling them, look, just go to an open air area or off property, and that's a win-win.
Yeah. So Joseph, he's asking about it. He says if a tenant smokes marijuana and has a doctor's documentation, but other tenants complain about it, what can you do? So how do you deal with it? I mean, they don't have to smoke, right? I mean, there's chewables and other ways. How would you answer Joseph here?
I think that because you have a no smoking policy in the building, legally you could continue to pursue it through a nuisance case if it were to elevate and escalate. But I think the initial approach is to start with a notice. And a notice, like I mentioned in my presentation, a notice that's real, that, hey, look, you got kids living next door to you. Okay. You got an old person living next door to you. Okay. These people can be dramatically affected by this. And this isn't something that we want to have in our building. And this is a place that we want everyone to feel welcome in our building. And so we're kindly asking that you stop from doing that. And that's the best place to start. Now, chances are they're not going to listen. We all know that. But it's always the best place to start because it shows that you're actually being real about the situation. You could always end up at a 3-day notice for, nuisance, and that will take things to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It may come to that point, and they may feel like you don't mean business until you serve a 3-day notice. When you serve that 3-day notice, then you need to start building your case. So evidence of showing that you were at this location at this time and you witnessed it or you smelled it, etc. And on these multiple occasions, you provided them notice to stop because that's a building policy and they're violating the policy and so forth, just like any action. And really just documenting that process, that you ask them multiple times, they continue to stop. And then, seeking attorney counsel to figure out what would be next if you really want to take it to that level. But I could tell you that visiting the property, that unit yourself and saying, hey, look, I'm not screaming at you. I'm just asking you. Okay, as a human being, you're living next to people or kids and so forth. This practice just isn't okay. Okay, and we're asking nicely, and you continue to be that way again until you can't anymore, and then you serve a 3-day notice, and then they know you mean business, and you're going to kick them out because of it.
Yeah. And the AOA lease agreement, the wording that we have in there is really strong, and it's good wording in the sense that it doesn't allow smoking in the common areas. We have the smoke addendum where you can make it so they could smoke in the common areas if you want, but here's a good reason why you wouldn't want to do that, just because you have elderly and children. Just think about that. Uh,
Right.
that's great. Couple more questions here. You got a few more minutes
Oh
or?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So Roya, how do you handle a rude tenant? And I think everything that you said today is how you handle a rude tenant, like the good attitude, being responsive. Like the last thing you want to do is talk to this person because they're so rude. But so it kind of defies everything to call them right back and be responsive. But yeah, so what else would you say for the rude tenant?
Well, certainly the attitude of kill 'em with kindness. I think that we get folks that call, frequently, and they're irate or they're upset or they've had a bad day and they're taking it out on you. And I think self-respect is really important. I think demanding self-respect, there's nothing wrong with that. Meaning, hey, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't talk to you if you're going to talk to me in this manner.
Mm,
Okay, and so you lay the ground rules,
mhm,
and you tell them, look, I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to hang up the phone. I can't keep going with this. Um, if you want actually to solve this, or if you'd like me to continue to help you, then we got to speak nicely to each other. So that's a phone call response. If it does get to a place where you have to notify them, you just got to go to the writing version.
mhm.
A serve a notice, a 3-day notice, outlining the issues that you're dealing with. If they're calling you and they're upset about a maintenance request or something along those lines, just continuing to hear them out, letting them know that you actually do care, and then showing them. See, part of my top 10 list was you got to put you have to put your money where your mouth is. You have to actually show them that you are willing to do the work efficiently with good vendors and timely, and they'll learn to respect you and that process a little bit more. It's not foolproof. We are not perfect. We admit that. We know that it's not always that way, but that's our goal. And we show them, hey, look, we've been to your unit before. We served that issue before, that another issue you had. This sounds like another issue, or maybe it's a continuing issue. Maybe we didn't solve the problem in full just yet. Maybe we have more to do. But you know what? That happens. And so let us back in. We'll keep fighting. We'll keep getting there until we get it right. And I think they'll notice that.
Great. And so you would probably give them a warning and then a written warning and then just take it to
Yeah,
just
like if they're
say
going to
like, hey,
call and
listen,
they're going to demand.
let's just communicate by email from here on out.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And I've
you
had
have a
that.
boundary. You're not letting your employees get abused
Absolutely
and
not.
owners listening on the phone, they don't need to tolerate being abused by super rude, like, people that are just out of control.
Yeah, an example, a good way to spin, if this helps anyone, is if they are denying you entry because you need to do that work that they're saying needs to get done, but they want X, Y, and Z. You serve a notice to enter. If they deny you entry, that's grounds for eviction. Not on
Yeah.
the first time, you have to do a practice, but there are ways you can even explain to them that this behavior will lead to an eviction. Um, and it also doesn't resolve their matter. And really, what they just want to do is scream. And so part of that is just hearing that out and letting them know that, hey, if you want to get something done, we have to be respectful to each other, and I'm going to help you out. But if you're going to disrespect me or the staff, I've told people on the phone, I won't tolerate disrespect. And if you're going to call and be rude to one of my staff members or whatever, we're going to hang up the phone. And I mean it, because we're trying really hard all day long to help people. And we did not cause the problem that you had. We're
Yeah.
just here to help solve it. And together we can actually do that.
Great. And here's the last question. Jay Lentz, how do you minimize burning of incense?
Yeah, that's a very
You've
highly
dealt with this,
specific.
haven't you?
That's a very highly specific challenge. It really it's a very difficult fine line. I'll give you another example of a situation where that runs right in the middle, right? So we had a building where the homeless person had parked their car in front of the building and they had their stuff out on the sidewalk. Well, technically, they're not on the sidewalk camping, and therefore, there's no easy access issues or whatnot. So the police won't do anything. And Department of Transportation will say they're just parked there during normal hours. It's one of those fine line issues, right? And I think that if it was put to me, what I would do is start with just communication, visiting their unit, asking them nicely, listen, this is causing people to be affected with allergies because it's smoke. And it has other properties in the smoke that cause people to potentially have allergy issues. And if that incense causes an allergic reaction where somebody gets medically challenged or in the hospital as a result over, we're coming after you. So those are some things that can be said. That's obviously a little bit of a far stretch, but that's part of this process. And maybe you offer them an incentive to do it, to stop, or find another solution. But in those circumstances where you sort of have a difficulty in enforcing it, the best way to go about it is just through genuine communication. Hey, tenant, listen, I'm getting a lot of requests here. Folks nearby you are complaining. I'm asking you to stop. Can we find another way to do this? Can you not burn incense on property? It is a smoke-free environment. It does fall within the confines of a smoke-free environment. And we are asking you kindly to stop doing that. And that's always the best place to start. You can always ratchet up the volume. Then you serve them with a written notice that says, we've asked you on multiple occasions to stop doing this. You've continued to be that behavior. This is the law of the lease. So go back to the lease, and you'll see in that lease it has language that says this is a no smoking building. You outline the law that they're violating, and then you go to a 3-day notice with that, and then you have to somehow document it by, I visited the unit on these occasions. After the 3-day notice, they continue to practice that behavior. I have photographic evidence. I have video evidence. You could do a 24-hour notice to enter their unit. They're required to let you in. You can have video evidence of the incense on the table, and build your case through that, and then take it to the attorney, and they will process it and see what happens.
Great. All right. And Saba, what are best practices regarding privacy practices? Thank you for the informative live chat.
Sure.
So privacy.
In what respect? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you could give a little more detail on that one, Saba, that would be great. And Trish, I imagine that the incense would also damage the units in terms of lingering smell even after they move out. Can you then deduct from security deposit to remediate the smoke damage?
Absolutely. I think that's actually a really great comment.
Yeah.
It is smoke. It has a lingering effect. It absolutely will require remediation.
Mm-hmm.
And a great way to approach that situation is to outline that in a notice to them, that if this could, you can start with your niceties and say, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to charge you a remediation of the unit when you're done. Okay, so that's, again, part of your step one communication. Please don't make me do this. It's going to cost a lot of money. I don't want you to do this. but I'm going to have to remediate the unit when you leave. And I need you to stop. So that's step one. Step two is you put that in writing that you violated this. It's damaging to the unit.
Yeah.
And it will be enforced. And so that's in your written, notice to them. And then again, 3-day notice for nuisance after you've outlined all of these steps. Unfortunately, you have to take the time to go through the motions of notice and so forth, but that's a really great comment on that.
Great point. Really good point. Yeah, Joseph was just, he just wants to make sure that he can tell the tenant to not smoke marijuana. He does have the no smoking policy. And Joseph, I've heard Mike Brennan, who's one of the eviction attorneys, say like, no, they can go off site or they can have a chewable. Smoking is not the only way to use marijuana therapeutically. And
Yeah,
so,
and I would say, aside from what we've mentioned here, just in the approach, is there are if you talk to one of the attorneys that are referred through AOA that will give you some more specific language or guidance on how to handle that. I am sure they're well versed in it because it's happening abundantly. And it is a problem, and we are getting requests for that. And when we do get those requests, we tend to approach it the way I just mentioned, through initial communication. You do not need to fear laying the law down at your property. You have rights too. And I think that we've been pushed around to the point where we feel we can't say or do anything, and that's just not the case. And so if it is something that is beyond what I've mentioned in terms of approach, you can start with some of those. And if you feel helpless at that point, I would absolutely reach out to one of the attorneys to get formal paperwork and more information, because there's language that you can use in some of your notices, like you just mentioned, that we do not have, we have a no smoking policy. And I think, letting them know that if people are affected by this, that you will be held liable. And those are ways you go about it.
Right. Well, we reached the full hour here. So again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to prepare this and share it with us. And thanks everybody for watching. And again, we'll be on at 12 with some tax tips. And I know things are changing with that big, beautiful bill, and there'll be maybe some information there. And I know at the trade show, we have a couple different people that'll be speaking on taxes. And so you'll want to stay abreast of all that's happening there and make sure that you don't pay Uncle Sam any more than you have to. Sure. And yeah, so again, thanks everybody. Thank you, Paul, one more time.
Thank you very much for
Any
having me.
last comments before we get off here?
Well, no, certainly give us a call if you are in need of property management services. We've been doing this a long time, and we are a boutique firm that handholds our clients through the process, and we love what we do, and we want to do it for the right people and good people that need our help and need our services. And any way that we can be of assistance, please let us know.
We see your 213 phone number there. Tell us what area you cover, and then we'll get off here.
Yeah, so our offices are in the Mid-City, Koreatown area. We service a lot of buildings in that area. We are throughout Los Angeles, so I'm in the Valley, South LA, East LA, and also West LA, West Hollywood as well. So pretty much throughout LA, we cover, we got a little more than a couple thousand units that we oversee, both in retail, commercial properties as well. So we do retail strip centers, but our main focus is apartment buildings, anywhere from C grade up to A grade. And so we have a pretty diverse background, and we're very versed in law, the rent control laws. So a lot of folks are coming to us for those concerns. But any way we can be of help, let us know.
Awesome. Thanks again. Thanks everybody, and maybe we'll see you here in a little bit at the next one. And take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.